Hi all my students, how is it going? Let's continue. I hope you all are working very hard. This is the time to work. So let's continue with our poem, A Considerable Speck by Robert Frost. Now in my last module, I remembered that I have done I have given you a summary of the poem. I have done the explanation of the poem. Then I have given you the title of the poem, the importance of the title and what is the title. Okay, so now today we touch upon the setting of the poem. Okay, now what is the setting of the poem? This poem is basically set on a sheet of white paper. You can take down notes when I'm teaching you. Okay, so please have your pens and papers ready. Always have it ready with you. So this poem, the setting of this poem basically is on a piece of paper. Some of the readers feel that there is no particular setting. It's just on a piece of paper on which the writer was writing, and suddenly he notices a speck. Okay, so that much is the only setting that we actually have. Okay. Then I want to discuss the style with you. So for discussing the style, before I discuss the style with you, I have got your you can take a copy of this or you can copy it down, whatever suits you. Whatever suits you, you can do. You can take a copy or you can take a screenshot or whatever you all are doing. Okay, so these are the two pages. Now let's discuss about the style of the poem. Now, like I told you last time, that when we talk about the style of the poem, we have to remember that we have to first tell what is the narration. I have explained to you how to do the style. So now in the style, the first thing I have written for you all is that it is written in first person narrative. What do you mean by first person narrative? That the author, the poet himself is the narrator over here and the poet is narrating. So it's called first person. Therefore they have used the word I. Then the second point is this poem. Now the style, we are discussing the style. Please keep your textbooks also open because we need to refer. So this poem is of 33 lines and it can be divided partially reflecting a patriarchal sonnet and having rhyming couplets. Okay, so basically it has got 33 lines and a part of it represents the patriarchal sonnet. Now what exactly is a sonnet? A sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. Okay, a sonnet will always have a poem of 14 lines, and a sonnet, a patriarchal sonnet, is divided into two parts. You have the octave and then you have the sestate. So the octave is something which has got 8 lines and then the sestate is something which has got 6 lines. So that is a sonnet, a patriarchal sonnet. Normally in a patriarchal sonnet, what happens is that the octave, which is 8 lines, it poses a problem. So it tells you the problem that the poet is going to discuss, and then for the sestate we have a solution of the problem. Okay, now this poem is not of 14 lines, so you cannot call it an absolute sonnet, but in between there are 14 lines which are strikingly similar to a Petrarchan sonnet because of its rhyming scheme. So let's see that. Verse 1, I have divided the thing into 3 parts. Verse 1, 2 and verse 3. Now verse 1 is lines 1 to 6. Okay, you can make a note of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it stops at, it made me think. Then now if you see these lines, it has got a typical AABBCC rhyming scheme. See over here in your books, sight, white. So AA. There, air. So BB. Then we have ink, think. So CC. Very simple. Okay, now we come to verse 2, which is the most important one, and because it represents a sonnet, and it has got line numbers 7 to 27. So starting with this line, this was no dust speck by my breathing blown, up to, but this poor microscopic item. Okay, so that is 27 lines. Now how line number 7 to line number 27. Now how is it divided? It has the first 8 lines. The first 8 lines will come up to, oh good, you have counted it. Okay, so the first 8 lines resembles an octave. Now what, and the next is of course a sestet with a proper rhyming scheme. Now what happens in the first 8 lines? In the first 8 lines we get the having an octave and a sestet. The rhyming scheme is used to imitate the mite's frantic running across the sheet of paper. So it's as if it's posing a problem that the mite is trying to escape and it wants to save it. So the instinct of survival. How do I save myself? How do I save myself? That is the problem. How do I escape death, or how do I save myself? How do I save myself from getting destroyed? Okay. So the rhyming scheme is used to imitate the mite's frantic running across a sheet of paper. It smells danger, trying to save itself, runs helter-skelter on the white sheet, and then resolving to its fate by cowering in the middle of the sheet. So we get the resolution in the last 6 lines, where it just resolves its fate and it rests on the middle of the page, and as if it is like whatever my fate is, let it be. Okay, so that is verse 2. Then we have verse 3 from line number 28 to line number 33. What happens over here? That it returns, if you turn your page and see, since it was nothing I knew evil of, I let it lie there, I hope it slept. Okay, these are the first 2 lines of the of verse 3. Okay, so here, and then if you see the last 4 lines, again we have recognize, guys, which are again rhyming with each other. So recognize and guise, and then guise is not G-U-I-S, okay, it is guise, G-U-I-S-E. Recognize and guise, then find and mind. Okay, so again we have that, and it is what has Robert Frost done over here? He has stuck to the traditional form of the poetry. The traditional form of the poetry is to have a proper meter, to have a proper rhyming scheme. That is a traditional form of the poetry. Nowadays, during this time, most of the people had started writing in free verse. So it is as if Frost is trying to. There is a satirical note in this, as if he is trying to tell them that it's no good being in free verse. You should have a proper rhyming scheme. Okay, so that is what he is trying to tell you. Then we come to the language. Now what is the language? The language is simple, lucid, and it displays honest expression of emotions. Okay. Then the tone. What is the tone? I told you the tone is something that tells you how you feel. What do you feel about it? Now if you think, without looking at the notes, just give it a thought for a moment. How do you feel about the poem? What do you feel about the poem? Okay, the beginning of the poem, of course, is very languid and it's very slow, and the manner in which the poet is almost ending his piece of writing, because he says over here, I had idly poised my pen in the air to stop it with a period of ink. Period of ink means with a full stop. Okay, so it's a very slow start, as if he had almost completed his poem, and suddenly he sees that mite. And because of the mite's frantic running here and there, the poem picks up motion. So then the tone of the poem becomes fast. It begins on a slow note, then it becomes fast, it changes pace, okay? And then by the end of the poem, when we see, look at the poem, children, when we see towards the end, since I knew it was nothing evil of, I let it lie there and all. So now here we have a tone of empathy and compassion, and trying to understand that no, the mite has not done anything evil, so why should I destroy it? Just let it be there. So I have written this over here. It begins in a languid, slow manner, and the poet almost ending his writing. When suddenly, you can add that line over there, ending his writing, which is the line which I gave you, period of ink. You can quote over there, period of ink. when suddenly the movement of the mite running frantically changes the tone to a fast pace, then to one of terror and fear, to that of empathy and compassion for the mite and joy for the poet. So ultimately we have joy for the poet. So all this is, so we have a varied display of tones. Okay. Then there's a lot of visual imagery. What is a visual imagery that the poet has used over here? One can literally visualize a small little speck, chota sa, ekdam nanna sa. He is like running here, running there, running everywhere, trying to save himself. Okay, so one can visualize the little mite running on the sheet with words used as paused, suspicion. It paused as with suspicion of my pen. So paused, suspicion, racing wildly again, it faltered, and it cowered down. Okay, so all these words give you a visual imagery of what the mite must have been doing on the white piece of sheet. I hope the style is clear to you all. And now we come to this. There is this verse. I will be discussing one answer with you today, and that is, if you see this beginning from a speck would have been beneath my sight till its own. Okay, with inclinations it could call its own. I want you to read just this much with me, and or you read it in your mind and try and understand what is it trying to say. How does this paragraph justify the title of the poem? Supposing you are asked a question that justify the title of the poem. I have discussed title with you. You should be able to justify. What will you write in justification of the title if you get a question that this is the extract given to you, justify the title? How would you justify it? Okay, the poem is basically in a meditation mood. Okay, so what is a meditation that the poet is doing over here? We find it is basically a meditation on nature of life, and it is the importance of paying attention to small things. Earlier the poet has not paid any attention to the little speck. Okay, and then when it sees that this speck has got a mind of its own and it starts running there is terror, there is fright, then there is suspicion, then there is a pause, and then ultimately he is giving in to his fate. Now with all these feelings that we have seen in the poem, so this speck which was earlier insignificant, children, you have to write all this. Okay, this speck which was earlier considered to be insignificant, the poet now considers it to be considerable. Considerable means something which is worth consideration, correct? And therefore this title is justified with this extract. With this very first extract which I gave you, the title gets justified. So that speck which was insignificant at the beginning has now become considerable, worth a consideration, something that needs a little bit of attention. So this celebrates the fact that however small a living thing can be, every small living thing is also worth a consideration. So it teaches us a lot of respect for life, irrespective of the size of the thing. Okay, so that is the way you have to justify that it is a considerable speck. A speck is a small thing, it is considerable, and this is the way the title is justified. I hope you all have got the points. Should I just read out the points to you? If you want, you can take it down. I'll just give you points. I won't give you full sentences. The poem, first thing is, the poem is a meditation on what? On the nature of life and the importance of paying attention to small things. So the poem is a meditation on the nature of life and the importance of paying attention to small things. Okay, that is the first thing you can begin your answer. Then you can say, initially something which was insignificant and small. On a closer inspection, we realize that it has a mind of its own and it has a unique identity of its own. It has a mind of its own and it has a unique identity also of its own. And therefore, it is worth a consideration. Because it is worth a consideration, we can call it a considerable speck. Thus, the title is justified, and it tells us that we must recognize the importance of all living things, however small, however insignificant they may look, but you have to recognize its importance, and therefore the title, A Considerable Speck. Okay, so I hope I've cleared this with you. So we've done the title ekdam thoroughly well. Now in my next module I will be dealing with the themes, because the themes require one continuous long explanation. So I'll do it with you in my next module, so that we don't have to break anywhere in between and you are fully concentrated. Read up all this, check both the modules and come fully prepared, and then go on to the third module. Okay, don't just see the third module. Do one, do number two, do both the modules properly, understand it properly, see it how many ever times you need to see, write down the notes, read your notes, learn your notes, and then after that you come to understand the theme, which I will be explaining in my third module, so that you are very clear, and then for your exams or for your tests or anything, this poem will just become, you'll know it like at the back of your hand. It will be very easy. Okay, so see you all again at my next module. Till then, please keep studying. Bye.